inconsiderate. Very, very inconsiderate. I need to ask you a question.
What?
First of all, do I look like a pushover to you?
No, not at all.
Why would have Sheila just done that?
What did she do?
She just invited someone to sit in a family setting of one of my enemies.
Who?
Gail Ridgway.
Oh,
pertaining to...
Because your beef is not with Gail, it's with Donnie.
No. My beef is with the whole family. The whole family was down there doing that. And you keep in mind, it was Gail and... Let me finish. Please let me finish. You keep in mind, it was Donald Ridgway and Gail, their tenants, that wound up causing me, for the first time in my entire life, to get a felony onto my life.
Ooh.
Simply because David and I was concerned about 3 little children across the road. Now, why would have David Jackson, my brother.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Why would have your sister, that's your sister up there, right?
Invite you to dinner. Because even the Indians and the Pilgrims put their differences aside to sit down for Thanksgiving dinner. That's why.
Well, why would she not have given me a heads up?
Because I guess she thought maybe you already knew that.
I already knew that. The Gail was coming?
No, that holidays are not for fighting. Even though...
As much stuff that has went on between the family?
The Indians and the Pilgrims could do it, so can we.
You realize what happened?
The Pilgrims killed a lot of Indians.
Hey, you realize what my food just done as I was sitting there and she come in there and sat down? It was like I was going through some sort of a test. Yeah.
You were.
Why?
To yourself.
No, not to myself. It was something that it was something that your sister brought upon. And don't get me wrong, I realized
you
that
had an opportunity to turn around and walk out anytime you wanted.
And then what would that have showed in me? Huh?
That's right.
What would that have showed in me? So in other words, I've been put.
You tested yourself by staying.
In other words, I was put on a spot. I was put on a spot.
You passed it.
So you do friends that way?
You tested yourself.
No, I didn't test. I didn't invite Gail here.
She didn't test you. You stayed on your own free will. You could have turned around and walked out at any time.
And that would have been disrespectful to the host.
The Pilgrims can do it, so can
that
we.
would have been disrespectful to the host.
That's right.
And why would have I wanted to have done the host that way? Even though the host done me that way, as far as not having the decency. Huh? Come here, I ain't through. Come on, please, let's talk about this. Guerrilla warfare. Yeah. Really?
Yeah, he's cute.
He come out of some kind of carnival, didn't he?
I guess.
What's it say on that little tag?
Cuddle with Creations.
Cuddle with Creations.
Someone made that, didn't they?
No.
Isn't that one of them places where you make your bear?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know.
But it's called consideration of considerating somebody else's feelings.
She probably told you, but I think she already assumed you knew she was going to be here.
No.
Because Mom and her are so tight.
They're a little tight. They're not all that tight.
You and Donnie are tight. And Mom and Gail are tight. And
I know.
And I'm tight with both of you guys.
And I know that Gail occasionally goes with your sister, occasionally shopping or doing music thing. Right. But was I planning on her? There's never been no confirmation between the Ridgway family or the Sheffield family and the Jackson family. Well, and for your sister to have done that, I think it's inconsiderate.
She was having Thanksgiving dinner. She invited whoever.
And she didn't care about my feelings.
She invited whoever she wanted to.
She didn't worry about no type of confirmation, did she?
She wasn't worried about no conflict either.
I didn't start no conflict.
And she's entitled to invite whoever she wants.
Do you think that I'm going to trust her towards another event?
I'm not going to debate this with
you.
you.
Do you think that if she invites me to another...
Do you think I care?
Obviously you don't.
No.
You don't care about my feelings? You don't care about what's happened to me in the past?
You have free will. I have a past too. Does anybody care about my past?
Sure they do. If they care about you, they do.
No, they don't.
If they care about you, they care about what went on in your life. Sure they do.
No, they're too busy dwelling on the bad shit. Like I was out stealing and fucking and scrapping and doing all that bullshit. That's bullshit too.
Was you doing it?
I don't want to hear no more about it. Bye.
Listen to me. That ain't a way of working out nothing by walking away from it.
I'm not trying to work out nothing. I explained to you what the bottom line is. You got free will, so do I.
The bottom line is I was set up. I was set up. I was set up. I was done wrong today. I was set up. That was wrong. That was wrong, just as wrong could be. Do you think I'm ever going to trust her again? If she invites me to another Thanksgiving or another Christmas dinner, do you think, you know why I'm not going to trust her? Because I'm going to think, you know what? If you're going to do this, if you're going to hit me below the belt and pull something like this, God only knows you'll have bring the Sheffield family over here next time.
If you're not mature enough to put that shit aside for the holidays, you don't need to be here then.
Well, I did put it aside. I did put it aside.
Pass your own test then.
I can't believe that I just had to experience something on this level. I knew Sheila had a relationship with Gail after Donald had died. They didn't really have one up until then. Of course, Sheila lost her father, and she's lonely too. And I know that occasionally they go together and do things, but I never would have thought that she would have been that bold, that gutsy, to have invited the number one enemy in my life that has been my enemy since I moved back here. Once more, I have not been their enemy. They have been my enemy. There's a difference. They opposed me and David going to start a recovery shelter out there towards wanting to be effective and be a part of the community. We just didn't want to live in the community. We wanted to help the community. And by us wanting to help the community, we started putting up signs towards recovery shelter. And this sign and that sign. These people retaliated against it. They made war towards us. And like I just got through telling her sister, I have never had a felony on my entire life out of all the scrapes that I've ever had with various state and federal officials until I come back home in 2014. And I had to sit there and finish out my Thanksgiving meal sitting beside the very person that has falsely accused me of all this doings. I talked to her brother a while ago, and I said, you know, if I was supposed to be out of touch with reality the way that these people want to put me on a pedestal towards being out of touch with reality, was it worth the risk of her bringing in somebody like that towards me possibly going off the deep end and not just getting verbal but possibly getting physical to the point that plates and chairs and just an all out and out knockdown drag out occurred? So obviously these people must have faith in me and understanding that I'm not a violent person in that degree. But yet now for them to steadily be tempting me or trying me, going through a test like this, just indicates how rank and how disrespectful that your enemy can truly be. Once more, Gail Ridgway become an enemy to the Jackson family. It wasn't the Jackson family that was an enemy to the Ridgway family, and it was only that way whenever I moved back, was whenever the whole family, not just the Ridgway family, but the Sheffield family and several other families in the neighborhood that turned against me towards me coming back to my own personal property. There is no endless end in how far the devil will go in trying to prove his case of trying someone to see just exactly how far he or she can go. Yeah, I love Gail. Yeah, I love the Sheffield family. But just because I love them doesn't mean I have to love what that they have done towards bringing my brother to a quick, sudden death at the age of 51. A matter of fact, I hate everything that those people stood for and done to not only David, but to me. And I hate the fact of how that the judicial system did not stand up for us in protecting us after we hired attorneys again and again and again towards seeking some sort of satisfaction. And the only satisfaction that we got was we had to put up with more disrespect. Talk about a group of people that could care less about somebody else's emotions and somebody else's feelings. I sat and finished out my meal. I said hello to Gail. I said one or two other words. I think I asked her if she was going to eat. She responded no. I got up, I sat in the living room for about 25-30 minutes, and then I got up and left. I felt like that this was some sort of a entrapment play towards seeing how Juby was going to respond. It's just like the devil in trying you. And like I said, all this stuff that has went on, yeah, I gotta love them as far as loving their souls. But just because I love their souls does not mean that I have to love what that they have done or are doing. And still to this day, they have not made no restitution towards saying, Juby, we're sorry, we was in the wrong. Donald Ridgway was the main honcho leader that was leading everybody on. Still to this day, does not get no type of an apology since all this hullabaloo broke loose in my life whenever I moved back here in 2014, which is now going on 7 years. 7 years. It's sad that the only way to bring transparency or enlightenment to this is to tell it the way that I'm telling it right now. And I never would have thought in a million years that Sheila, that I thought was a closer friend to me than what she ever was towards the Ridgway family, especially since Mr. Ridgway come to Sheila's house and acted up the way that he did. They even contacted the police and had the police called on him and told him that he was never welcome back on the property again, pertaining to Donald Ridgway. But it's awful shameful whenever people are so inconsiderate of other people's emotions and what other people have went through and what they're going through. It's really, really sad. I'll never go back to that person's house pertaining to another Christmas, New Year's, or Thanksgiving event again. Because as far as I'm concerned, that was wrong. Sheila hit me below the belt with this type of trial, with this type of test, that I basically had to sit there and swallow my food, knowing that it wasn't going to digest properly. As a matter of fact, whenever I got up from the table and I went to Sharon, Tennessee a while ago, it actually gave me a nosebleed. And my nerves really, really has to really get upset pretty bad before I start bleeding out some of my orifices, because I'm almost at the verge of having a breakdown. Like I said a while ago, if I'm supposed to be so out of touch with reality, how come she was willing to do that, not knowing how I was going to respond and react? Talk about the Christian being tried. Talk about the Christian being done wrong. Talk about the Christian being either ignored or violated again and again and again. Since I've come back here, I've gotten more than my fair share of disrespect coming from various people in this neighborhood. Do I still love them? Yeah. I love them. I love their soul, because I don't wish for no one to go to hell. And it's a commandment by my God through the teachings of His Son for me to love these people. But once more, where society has taken it upon to themselves, they think that just because you're a Christian, you're supposed to be used as a floor mat or a whipping post, to the degree that, oh, I can just do any and everything to this person, and they have to, according to their laws and their belief, they have to sit back and take it as I dish it out. No, that's not what Jesus said. Jesus said that if they won't treat you fairly, if they won't receive you, if they won't respect you, to shake the dust off of your feet and move on, for it would have been better for Sodom and Gomorrah than for that group of people or for that individual to have done you the way that they have done you. Now, I don't know if these people's excuse is going to be alcohol or drugs or whatever. I don't know. They can stand in front of the Heavenly Father and try to lie and say, well, we just never did think about it, God. We just never took it upon to ourselves to give it a whole lot of thought towards being considerate. The thing about it is, this wicked and demonic society that I'm talking about, they have more consideration for a cat or a dog or a wild animal than they do for each other. They have more consideration for themselves than for the Christians, the true Christians, that has tried to help them in every way humanly possible. My hullabaloo started whenever I moved back here in 2014 over a bunch of domesticated animals that the people refused to keep tied up, chained up, cooped up, that come over to my house and destroyed my private property. Because one thing led into another. This 292 Thompson Road piece of property become weaponized in trying to get back at not only myself, but at my brother, and as far as I am concerned, the whole family. They know just exactly what that they just done towards what went on Thanksgiving 2020, the year of the Jubilee, and You know, Sheila knowed the past. Matter of fact, Sheila stayed down here and rented from my father the old trailer that JW and David, my brother, had. Rented for almost a year down here. So they're very in tune about the family matters towards what has happened and what generated what. They just don't care. Inconsiderate, disrespectful people is what I had to walk back into in 2014. And now they think that they can buddy up and be buddies. We're going to be best pals, even though you've never come to me and said, Dennis, I'm sorry, or made any type of retribution. I don't think so. There will always be a wedge between the Christians and the non-Christians as long as the non-Christians think that they can manipulate the Christians. That's what's wrong with the Christian society today, is that we have set back and we have allowed for these people, for these tactics to be used on us again and again and again. There's no doubt that the Pilgrims ate with the Indians and the Indians ate with the Pilgrims. There's no doubt that they had to put aside bad feelings towards what had happened in the past. There's no doubt that there's been a lot of bad blood. But until these people are willing to come to their senses and realizing that we have responsibilities too as a non-Christian society towards making up to the Christian society, there will never be any peace, not only in America, but there will never be any peace in society. To think that we're supposed to be the ones to take second seat, their thinking is wrong. They're trying to manipulate their way into a friendship. And it's kind of the same way that Jesus said, and the reason why Jesus said that if you try to enter into heaven any other way than through your sincerity and through asking for forgiveness towards actually repenting. If you try to enter into the glory land any other way, Jesus said point blank, you would be as a thief and a robber, and that you would be denied. You will be denied, was the words of the Lord Jesus Christ. You see, you can't manipulate God. You can't manipulate the favor in God. You can't manipulate your own personal responsibility and your accountability towards what you're supposed to do, even as a non-Christian or even as a Christian. You can't manipulate that. You have to do the proper right thing. I still got a destroyed mailbox, a destroyed sign. I've had a felony placed on my life because of this. I've got a 51-year-old brother that's dead, and I still have yet to get any type of reconciliation with the community. And they're still refusing to do the proper right thing. Tommy Moore, the judge in Weakley County, other officials in this county, is still refusing to do the proper right thing. They think that they can manipulate their way in this behavior, just suddenly drifting away. It's just supposed to deteriorate, supposed to evaporate, like it never occurred. In the meantime, us true Christians get violated and treated like we're some sort of a whipping post, like we're some sort of a floor mat. Once more, the Windmill Ministries has not failed the people. It's the people that has failed the windmill ministries. The windmill ministries did not make war with the Ridgeway or the Sheffields or the Rollinses or the Cobles or the Willises or the Bakers or the Hayeses or the Whites or the Nelsons or the Morgans or the Halls or the Coopers or any other local around here within a certain radius. We did not make war with these people. These people failed to do the proper right thing 30 plus years ago by ignoring the words coming from the minister out of the ministry. They failed to recognize the messenger's words that has now put us where we are. This all began with a rebellious movement that started in 1980 and 8 during Ronald Reagan's administration, whenever Ronald Reagan and Bush was in power, after they basically crucified a spiritual leader, or a so-called spiritual leader, by the name of Jimmy Swaggart. It is so sad to see how Satan and Satan's people try to manipulate their way in doing something that they know is not proper. Somebody's dog. Somebody probably dropped him off. This is a drop-off area. I don't know whose dog it is. It almost looked like Photo. Photo! See if he knows his name. Photo! No, if it was Photo, he'd already done come. Somebody probably dropped him off, looking for a home. If I would have known what I know now with the Thanksgiving dinner, knowing the past with the Ridgeway and the Sheffield family, do you really think that I would have stopped off for a free meal? Which it wasn't a free meal. I mean, I offered I did bring something at the meal, but to be tried, purposely tried, to go through a test, just shows you how belittling that the devil's people will go. That there is no certain boundary as far as how far that they're willing to stoop and willing to go. These people have made a mistake out here. They have made a mistake, and the law wants to hold our feet to the fire when we make a mistake. Oh, you're going to pay for your crime. Okay. But how about whenever they make a mistake? How about whenever they have committed a crime? No one holds them to their mistakes after being trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. You know, I looked it up a while ago. We have declared over $500 billion worth of bankruptcy this year alone of various private corporations and people that is filing for bankruptcy here in America, which I'm pretty sure after the COVID gets through, they'll probably be right at $1 trillion in bankruptcy alone. Look it up. I looked it up. I Googled it. To think that we are steadily going backwards the way that we're going backwards, and still nobody is held accountable for what has occurred here pertaining to this travesty that began with the Reagans and the Bushes. It's kind of the same way pertaining to Gail Ridgeway, the Ridgeway family and the Sheffield family. by thinking that this is just going to suddenly vanish or go away, even though there's not been no confirmation made. Nobody has went out of their way towards apologizing towards what has went on here. Once more, we was attacked by them. Every incident that occurred happened right here at 291 Thompson Road, or down at the other end of the property at 430 Beach Grove Road. Every time we went to court, it was right here. Even the attorney that we hired tried to bring that up in front of the courts. You think the judge cared about that? Do you think? You know, it's kind of ironic whenever David had lost all faith in Tommy Moore because of the way that they took him down on his property and tried to kill him with his own gun. And then Tommy questions me about, well, I don't understand. How come you don't trust us? How come you don't trust me? Well, it was David that convinced me, Jimmy, we need to take this to another judge. Take it to a higher court. And we had agreed that we was going to split the attorney cost. Whatever it costed us, we was going to split it, because we knowed that I was in the right in regards to this. So we decided that we was going to take this to a higher court. Because I hired a crooked attorney and he didn't let me know when my arraignment trial was during the proceedings of me grieving over my brother's death, they'd flip it and turn it around and come and arrest me. And it was me. We was the one. David and I was the one that wanted to go to the higher court. And now you're going to arrest me because I didn't show up at the higher court? This was the craziest thing that I'd ever had to experience in my entire life by coming back here to Weakley County. Just like it was crazy a while ago in me having to sit and gobble down a bunch of food after that I had gotten started eating. Already had a plate full, sat down, and already had about a third of it ate. And here comes Gail Ridgway that sat right beside Juby. Some sort of a test. Some sort of a trial. Well, I got news for the devil and the devil's people. Whatever that they was trying to cook up, or whatever that they wanted to prove a point at, it backfired on them today. Because I sat there very promptly and professionally, and I ate my meal. I knowed what it was going to look like if I got up suddenly and walked out. So I went ahead and ate my meal, even though it was hard for me to do so. Went into the living room after Donald had already walked into the living room. Walked in there for about the exchange of 25, 30 minutes while me and him was talking about all this, and then left. Was I inconsiderate towards not telling the host how good the meal was? You know, I probably was. But was it any more inconsiderate towards her inviting the very person that tried to destroy our lives whenever she knows good and well the background in behind this person? So that's whenever I called Donnie and I told Donnie to tell Sheila how good the meal was and thank you for the meal. In other words, whenever I walked out of that living room, I was not going to utter a word to no one other than walking outside and getting in my vehicle. Because I know the type of damage that has been done here, and it was not done ignorantly. It was not done unintentionally. It was done over the span of the period over about 3 or 4 years. From 2014 up to my brother's death 2017. And even since then, we have gotten a little bit of resistance, not necessarily from Gail, but some of her people that's associated with the Ridgway or the Sheffield family. We have gotten somewhat resistance, not near as much resistance, but just like this sign right here. This isn't the first time that the sign has come down. This is the second time that this sign's come down. See, the second time, I leaned it against that bell right there and had it tied off real good where I know that the wind wouldn't blow it away. And somebody tore it down. That was violation number 2. If there's ever been a time that we needed to pray that God's will be done. Not the devil's will, but God's will be done. It is today. And pray that God's people will no longer be a whipping post to the devil's people, and the devil's people trying to manipulate their way into our lives and not promptly, professionally doing the right thing.